Hello, all, and welcome back to a new episode of TV and Us, a conversation show about the TV series we just can't stop talking about. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And each season, we focus on a different show, reviewing it episode by episode, and we invite you to watch along with us. Right now, we are reviewing Alien Earth, and today we're on episode 3 titled Metamorphosis. I have to say, I had to autocorrect Metamorphosis when I was typing this out because I was like, there's so many letters in this word. Just help me, computer. Do your thing. Okay, if you haven't watched this episode yet, this is your spoiler. We're going to talk about everything that happens in this episode, so go watch it and then come back and listen. Sarah, kick us off with a episode summary for this third episode.
The team returns home with unexpected cargo. An unsettling experiment occurs and a new talent is discovered.
Oh, that's good. That's good. A new talent is discovered. I like that. I'm here for that. We're going to talk about that.
Yes.
Episode titles, Alien Earth, episode 3. Sarah, what is yours?
Mine is First Pancake.
Oh, well done. Well done. Yeah, that's quite a line. My episode title is How Old Are You?
A very important question.
Okay, well, we are chugging along on this show. We have gone on, I think, quite an interesting emotional roller coaster kind of with this show so far. I feel like it's fascinating hearing us talk about this because I think we're trying. We're really trying, and you can hear us trying. So I'm curious, this third episode, where is this graph going? Is it positive slope to the top right corner of the graph, or is it dipping down for you on how you feel about the show in general?
Yeah, I think for me, this was the most interesting episode so far. I was much more engaged in this episode than I was in the previous two. And I think that has to do with being introduced to some of these other characters more. We have talked about that we are not fully bought in on this Wendy Jo business. So it was nice to spend more time with some of the other characters. And I really loved kind of like seeing their personalities come out, but also seeing some conflict start to rise, both
finally.
Internal conflict that people are experiencing and then some interpersonal conflict as well. And so I think that is, conflict is just interesting. That's such an important part of a good story is conflict. So I'm curious to see where some of these go. I feel like we didn't have like a ton of that in the first two episodes, which makes sense because it's really foundation laying. So yeah, for me, this is starting to like move in a better direction. So we'll see. We'll see where they continue on with the story. What about you? How did this third episode land? How is your graph looking?
You know, my graph has dipped, but I think that it's setting up things that I'm going to like. So I agree. Conflict is very fun. This is why we show up to watch characters collide with each other. I think I'm particularly most excited about seeing more of the Lost Boys group, which I think only 2 or 3 of them are boys, and the other half of them are girls, which I think one of the characters actually mentions. I love seeing their personalities starting to come out a little bit more, and the rebellion starting to come out a little bit more for some of the characters, and also for some of them almost being lured into these systems of control. So in the case of Slightly being lured by Morrow and potentially having to do his work for him, it's starting to set up some of that. And so I'm excited to just see all of these characters make choices now. This episode on a whole, I think is not the strongest for me, and I didn't find it the most exciting. I was kind of just feeling like things were happening, but I'm like, what are we doing here? But we're getting to see some better character development for this crew, this group of children specifically, and I think that is what I'm most excited to see next. So I have a feeling episode 3 didn't really work for me, but I think maybe episode 4 is going to be good, hopefully, and I will love it. So it's the ball is rolling in a better direction. But the path we've traversed with said ball in this episode is just whatever to me. I think it'll be fascinating to see what they do with Wendy. I think, surprised to see them kind of like showcase some of her weaker sides so quickly, and this kind of thread of her dying. All of that whole emotional beat didn't work for me at all with the like moody electric guitar as she's like being brought home like a war hero. I was like, I don't this I'm supposed to be sad. I'm not very sad. I'm kind of feeling disconnected here. But the rules of the world that are being teed up in the ending with the face hugger being like ripped from its egg and Wendy having the seizure and them being connected, I think is a fascinating just world building choice of perhaps the aliens are all of these experiments that have gone wrong, and how this artificial form of creating life has gone really, really wrong, and how those life forms are connected, more connected than we think. So I love the implications of that, and I hope they really tease that out a little bit more. And I don't really know what's happening with Joe still yet again, so he's just kind of there to be brother.
Yeah, yeah, the Joe Wendy business is just that it's not working for me. But a lot of the other stuff I think is interesting with the whole like Wendy xenomorph thing. I kept actually thinking about I think it's Jurassic Park. They talk about in the first one that they like brought the dinosaurs back with some like frog DNA that they like put in
Mm,
there to whatever, I don't know, science. And so I kept thinking about that and I was like, could they have somehow used like xenomorph DNA in the creation of Wendy or
yeah,
something? Like, was that
for
part of the
sure.
prototype? Are we going to have like an interesting like Jurassic Park reveal kind of situation going on here? So that was just a little bunny trail that my mind went down. But I love
Yeah.
that tee up of she is different for some reason. We don't exactly know why she has this connection to them that none of the other ones seem to have. And so it's going
Yeah.
to be really interesting to examine what is different about Wendy. And I mean, obviously, there's that conversation between Boy and one of the other lost boys. I forget her name, where she's like, "Why is Wendy different? Why is Wendy your favorite?" So there's this very
Yes.
clear delineation between Wendy and the Lost Boys, which makes sense from Peter Pan. But it's going to be interesting to see where the show kind of takes that, and maybe it's not just favoritism that Wendy is different. It's not just that Wendy was first, but there might be
Mhm.
something about her actual makeup that is different than the Lost Boys. So that's going to be, I don't know. I'm just curious to see where the show goes with that. You know, it's teeing it up with
Mhm.
such emphasis. So where's it going to go next?
Mhm. Yeah, the implications of that are really fun to get to see, and I think what also makes it really fascinating to see their connection is that so far many of the aliens that we've seen are incredibly predatorial in their nature. They are looking to fight and conquer and survive and protect their young. And so they're very animalistic in their survival. And we see Wendy really exhibit this like altruistic like tendency constantly. She's looking to go save her brother. Like there's nothing about her that is looking to ambitiously survive better than the others. In fact, we see a lot more of that with Curly, the girl who wants to be Boy's favorite. And I think that contrast is really fun to see. This incredibly soft and tender, big-hearted, synthetic in Wendy being so connected to what seems to be animalistic and predatorial and savage and aggressive in nature with all of these other aliens. And when and how and why are they so connected? So the way that their natures, if they're connected, are being expressed, being so different, I think is really fun too. Versus if like Wendy's countenance was much more like Curly, I think a little less interesting. But nothing about her wants to conquer and be violent, like she's just trying to find her brother because she loves him. So that's really fun to see.
Yeah, yeah, she's so like relationally driven and has that like communal care kind of vibe to her. Uh so yeah, that's so interesting to pair those two things together because we've seen and like the xenomorph is driven wanting to protect her young. So you can see
Yeah.
that like protecting and that care, but it just shows up very differently in the world, obviously. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how those two are connected and how deep that connection actually is.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to see some like thesis or something that the show wants to say around how our natures might be given to us, but the environments that we are in can stoke or draw out different sides of us. Like I think it'd be like kind of interestingly cynical and jaded for the show to showcase how Wendy becomes incredibly aggressive out of survival or wanting to protect her brother and becomes alien like by the end of the show. I think that would be so interesting to see how by the end of these 8 episodes, Wendy becomes an alien. I think that would be really cool. And maybe it's out of like rage or protection of her brother or something. There's something that has triggered it, but this almost like innate thing in all of us that is terrifying. I think would be really cool. Especially because we start off the show meeting her where she is so docile and obedient and soft spoken as Marcy. But when our natures are almost also tampered with too, like it just can explode in these really wild ways. So I would love to see like rage fest killing machine Wendy by the end of the show, because I think that's like a really potentially a fascinating thesis that the show is going to make around what is human, what is alien, what is machine, and how like it almost doesn't even matter because it's about the environments we're put in that draw out different sides of us.
No, I love that. And I I love the idea of rage induced killing machine Wendy. I think that's fantastic. But I think that that's also an interesting thing to kind of pair with how we were first introduced to Marcy, because she has
Mm,
that conversation with Kirsch about the
yeah.
scorpion. And he's like, what would you like me to do with it? And she says, kill it. That's her first
Oh, yes.
gut response
Yes,
because it's scary. And then he
that's
talks with
true.
her. And then by the end of the conversation, she's like, oh, well, I guess no, don't kill it. I don't want you to do that. So
That's
that
good.
instinct of I'm scared and the scary thing needs to be eliminated was in her, which is such a human thing. Like
Yeah.
that's part of being a human. And then as she sought to understand, then she didn't want it to be killed anymore. So I think that
So good.
there's something there in that opening scene that could potentially be foreshadowing a change in her, where she leans more into that fear part of her personality and just reacts instead of taking the time to actually listen and learn and reason. So I don't
Hmm.
know. It's plausible, and that would be a really fun direction for this episode or this show to go in.
Yeah. No, that's a really great point, actually. That opening scene framing or potentially even setting up what Rage Wendy, who maybe then comes back down to Earth in some way or wherever they are in the universe. Uh, that is really fascinating to see. Um, Other, I think, like notable characters that are reflecting on their natures is Morrow, our guy. When is a machine not a machine? Tell me your thoughts about what we get to see from Morrow in this episode.
Morrow is so interesting. I'm so excited that we get to like spend more and more time with him. Cause even his kind of evolution over these 3 episodes, I think is fascinating. Because in the
Mm,
first one, he's much more robotic and doing exactly what mother says and like really following orders. And then I feel like in the second episode, we started to see some of that like personality come out. And we even talked about it in our review of like this this glint in his eye, and you can tell that
Mm.
there's more going on under the surface, and he's not just like a mindless droid. There's something
Yeah.
there. And then I feel like in this episode, we get to see so much from him. There's so much personality coming through. We get to see that he's not just following orders, but he's making decisions. We also see his grief. Everybody that he knew has died. He doesn't have community anymore. He references a kid. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's an interesting little detail too. So I love the way that each episode is like unfurling more of who Morrow is. And I'm
Mhm.
so excited to spend more time with him and just learn more about him, because he just is getting more and more complex in the best way. So I love what they're doing with that character.
He is ready to break free. I loved the scene where he's having to like transfer the data. With the visuals of that were really cool, with the wires and the light going through them, and you see kind of his sorrow and having to do this and be beholden to the powers that be that control him. And it's so fascinating to see him start to rebel against those, and almost that consciousness, wherever it comes from in him, is like overtaking his programming, and that is starting to win out a little bit more. And so I love the way that actor brings so much emotion to these scenes, because I felt for him when he was having to like hook himself up to the wires and do the data transfer. Like, this is not what he wants. And the fact that there is emotion means that there's competing desire, and the fact that there's competing desire means there's consciousness that is outside of the programming and the makeup that he's been given by Yutani. So more and more we're seeing Morrow just absolutely transform and blossom, and he's making moves that I feel like we're starting to see. Also, I don't know if Yutani knows about this. Slash is going to be agreeing with some of the choices that he's making and forming alliances with Slightly. Is going to be really fun to see the two of them, I don't know, get up to some naughty business.
Hey, I'm here for it. Let's rebel against all the corporations, because they're all evil. So
Yeah.
let's go. Please be agents
Yeah.
of chaos in your own special ways. This is fantastic. But I love that, like, Morrow's, obviously there's interesting stuff going on with that character, but also the choices that he's making are then going to like push the hands of others too, to then have to make choices.
Mm,
So something that we talked about in the previous two episodes is wanting those like political moments where we see these two corporations kind of like
yeah.
battling it out, and what could that look like. And I wonder how much like Morrow's decision and Kirsch's decisions, like those are going to force these corporations hands
Mm,
essentially, and maybe are
mm.
setting up some of those bigger political fights that we're wanting. So it might not just be lawyers lawyering back and forth, but we might have
Yeah.
some like good, juicy political maneuvering, which would be so fun to watch.
Yes. Like, is Boy gonna try and recruit in Morrow somehow, promise him some sweet deal of autonomy and freedom and agency so that Morrow will hand over, or at least collaborate more with the species that he has over onto the other side, and not give them back to Utani as he is supposed to be doing, but he is very much not doing. Uh So yeah, I think that'll be fast. There's all these players and chips on the game board, and there's a few of them that are very clearly positioned to be powerful in some way or influential in some way. And I think your identification of Morrow and Kirsch being another one, that dude has convictions, and again, you can see it in the actor's eyes that like there's something he's not going to be an easy pawn that's going to be just letting himself be used by Boy. There is thought behind what he wants. And when and how and what will force those characters to no longer answer to the higher ups, I think is so fun to see. So, yeah, we'll we'll find out. We will
We
find out.
sure will. And I'm even more curious about Kirsch because he he wasn't made by boy. Like he's not a prodigy droid or whatever he
Yeah.
is. Like, and so that is interesting to me. I want to know more about like his origin and like how did he get here? Because even
Yeah.
the way when he's talking with Morrow, he's very elusive about
Mm,
where he has come from and like what I guess like what company he belongs to or whatever. And so I'm just curious what that means because if he was able to make a choice to defect or whatever, that's also interesting. How much
yeah.
autonomy do these androids,
Droids.
cyborgs, synthetics, all of these different types of beings, how much autonomy do they actually have and how much choice do they have? So I think Kirsch is an interesting piece in all of that, and I think he could be a source of some complications too, which would also be just interesting to see.
Which I think goes back to a lot of Morrow's question, which is when is a machine not a machine? And how much like from a I mean, there's a philosophical question around that, like the consciousness and desire and emotion and versus like programming and makeup. But I'm also thinking about like logistically, is there an off button that's centrally controlled by the powers that be that created them that they are beholden to as well, which I feel like we've gotten to see in previous alien movies where those non-human creations are trying to like transport their consciousness into other places so that they can survive because they know that perhaps the existing bodies or uh, I don't know, bots, I don't know what to call them, vehicles to house them are controlled by a central place. Like they are not safe, and that's still a system of control for them. So whether it's like putting their consciousness into mother and into the computer somehow, into the ship somehow in order to preserve their life, uh that's a fascinating question too. It's just like the relationship between the consciousness and the physical ways that they exist in the world, and what does that look like? Like for Morrow, is there an off button for him? Like if he's starting to really rebel, does Utani have the ability to say, turn that cyborg off, like it's gone rogue, and just click, done. So is Morrow looking to form an alliance somehow so that he can have a synthetic body by building this relationship with Slightly and like how can he transfer his consciousness into a body that boy can give him somehow? I don't know. But we'll wait to see what his plan is. He's got a plan.
He does. He has a plan. He is working that plan, and we don't know exactly who his allegiance is to. And
Yeah.
it's going to be really interesting to see if that can be swayed. Is he going to be the type of character that can play like almost like a double agent? There's so
Yeah.
many things that they can do with Morrow, and they've just set up that character so well. I'm very excited to see what's next for him.
Yep. Yep. Me too. Me too. Um, I loved the scene at the beginning of the film, not the film, the beginning of the episode, where the redhead girl, I think her name is Nibs, she asked the question, why couldn't we pick our names? Why couldn't we choose our names? And I'm so fascinated by this character. She's so contemplative, and the question alone, I think, insinuates what it means to be human and have an identity, and your ability to choose that identity versus it being given and bestowed upon you is like really fascinating. It reminded me so much of in the Blade Runner series how the concept of being born was so significant because that means that your memories were not given to you. So your understanding of reality was not tied to someone giving them to you. You were able to form them on your own. And I think her fixation on name as this entity of identity, I thought was so interesting and so fascinating. So I'm so curious about her. There's so many shots too throughout the episode later where she's just like staring and thinking and contemplating, and I feel her mind expanding and wandering in every one of those scenes. So I just can't wait to see what she's going to do next. And I feel like she's hatching some plan or desire or conviction for something. So, very intrigued by Nibs and what she's going to do next.
Yes. Yeah, I'm also very interested in her, and the other thing that I loved about her kind of fixation on names is Wendy is the only one who is able to choose her name.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
else had their name given to them, and
Yeah,
I think that that's another interesting distinction between Wendy and then everybody else.
true.
And
Yeah.
so I love that Nibs is asking these questions, but then we're also seeing the personalities of the other Lost Boys come out too, and they are all so different and also unique, and you're seeing them wrestling with things a little bit differently, like when Slightly and I think Smee learn about how everything they see is recorded and
Mm,
their responses to that, and even Slightly saying, I don't think I like that. And it's such a little kid way to express that discomfort, and it takes so much courage for a little kid to be able to say, oh, I don't think I like that. So
yeah.
I loved those little moments that we're seeing throughout this episode of they're starting to like come into themselves a little bit more and being able
Mm,
to express their personality a little more. And just shout out to all the actors who are playing the Lost Boys and the actress who plays Wendy. Like they're all doing such a good job of having these little kid moments and these little kid mannerisms, but
yeah.
as an adult. And it's not gimmicky or like too silly, but it feels so natural and right for the characters. Like one of the moments that I loved that was such a little kid moment is between Slightly and Smee where they're
Yeah.
swearing. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, you said this! Oh my gosh, you said this!" And the little, their little smiles that they
Yeah.
share. That now they're adults, so they can swear. It was such a like a little kid thing, but
Yeah.
to see these actors being able to like fully embody that, I thought was really impressive. So I think that's one of the reasons why I liked this episode is because
Yeah.
we're seeing these things come out of these characters that
Mm,
we didn't get to see before. So they're all so different, and they have different desires, different motivations, and when those will start to clash, I think it's going to lead to some interesting set pieces, some interesting conflicts. So, like you, I think this episode is setting up something really interesting to come in the next episode.
yes. Yes. And we're going to be here to see it unfold. My goodness, it's going to be quite juicy. I do I do find it interesting to see how now that their desires and their like relationships and their feelings about their situation are no longer so clearly coherently aligned together, what will they tell each other and how will they work together versus not? It reminds me of that moment in Severance where, spoiler alert, Dylan receives the opportunity to be able to see his wife. And we had this really interesting discussion around even the choice of whether Dylan will tell his team about that and his friends about that or keep it to himself and kind of take advantage of that value add for just himself is an interesting character defining moment. So similarly for Slightly, is he going to go tell his friend Smee like, yo, this guy like ingested this like chip in me and now I'm talking to him through my head, like, and it's kind of weird and I don't know what to do about it? Or is he going to game this and try and find the benefits and opportunities that he can and keep it to himself? I don't know. We don't know the character well enough to know, but that'll be fascinating to see what secrets start to form between all of them in their kind of diverging trajectories now. So I'm glad the show is spending so much time with these Lost Boys crew. That's what I wanted. That I'm glad to see it happening. I'm eager for more of it. They could have easily just like lumped them together as like, here are the children that are in human bodies and they're a cohesive unit, but the show's interested in exploring them individually. So we love it. We love to see it.
Yeah, no, we're here for this because they're interesting enough, and I think that they're like fully developed as characters enough to add
Yeah.
so much interest to this show. So I'm really glad that at least based on this episode, it's not just the Wendy and Joe show, but they're making it, this much broader ensemble story. And so I think there's a lot of characters in there for us to really like buy into and want to follow.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So we'll cut the show some slack for not having as much Joe character development, I suppose. Like, once again, our vanilla boy character, we just okay, he's injured now. Maybe we'll see something from him next. One last thing that I thought was really interesting, we touched on it earlier, but I just wanted to double click on it a little bit quickly, is the competitiveness of that Boy is stoking between Curly and Wendy. So terrible, so slimy, but aligned with that character. And kind of pitting them against each other. Woo! It's genius for what he is looking to accomplish, but it feels so slimy to do that, and especially like as a female, who society and so much of what we've seen is women fighting against each other for favor from men. It just made me feel so many feelings watching that unfold on the big screen in this way, but well written, and indicative of Boy's just like utter depravity and sense of like integrity and moral rightness. He just doesn't care. He's intrigued that there's something and someone that's ambitious in front of him that can like scratch that itch for him as well. And so he's gonna stoke it as much as he can. So that was wild to see on this episode.
Yeah. It was appropriately creepy. Just so well done. You know,
Mhm.
I was cringing the whole time. Which is great, you know. It was a good scene that evoked a lot of emotions. So very effective and so interesting in
Yeah.
where the show is going to take that. Like I love I love that Curly is so assertive, and I think that that's also just an interesting character dynamic to bring into this whole group, because the other Lost Boys are not like that. So she is
Mm,
very different from everybody else in her demeanor. So again, an
yeah.
interesting thing to add into the mix that's going to lead to some really cool conflict in the future, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
what are they going to do with her?
Drama. It's
Yeah.
setting up so much drama.
We're here
Yep.
for it.
Yep. Okay. Any other last things before we give out some TV and us awards, shall we?
The only other thing that I wanted to like give a shout out to is the
Yeah.
music in this episode. It really worked for me. I think in
Okay.
the
Yeah.
previous episode, the music didn't work as well. There were like certain musical motifs in the last episode that I was like, oh gosh, I'm sick of this. Like, we need to move on. But for
Hmm.
me, this third episode, like every emotional moment had like the appropriate score attached
Mm,
to it. And so I don't know. For me, the music in this absolutely worked. So I hope that they keep on this good music track, because
mm,
man, this one perfect.
yeah.
Slapped.
Nice. Love it. Love it. I was a little distracted by the previous episode's musical choices as well. Like I was too aware of it. This one's a lot
Mhm.
stronger. One quick shout out that I'll also give, kind of unrelated to the music and some of the like visual choices, is the way that this show does the equivalent of previously on. I think is so cool. Like it's just the title of the show slowly coming to crispness as like all of the different like small strokes are forming in the letters, and there's just these like fast cuts of like big moments from the previous episode for like 12 seconds, and then we dive fully in. And I just think it's such a cool way to, very artistic and fun way to do a like, hey, this is what you missed, here are some vibes, and let's dive right in. Like, you watched it or you didn't, like, too bad. So I love that. I
Yeah.
think that's really cool. I don't see that quite often. It's usually a very clear
Mhm.
like montage of all of the big moments from the previous episode, and this one's done it in a very stylized way, which I really like.
Mhm. I am curious though, because we've watched these 3 episodes kind of like back to back, and so
Yeah,
now it's going to be a week between watching
true.
episode 3 and episode 4, and so I'm curious to see when we watch episode 4, is
Yeah,
that little like 12-second montage going to be enough for me to remember what I watched a week ago, or am I
true.
going to want a more traditional previously on? But I agree. I love the creativity there. And this shows trust in us as the audience to be like,
Yeah.
you remember this, right? We can trust you to remember what you watched a week ago. We'll see if that trust is misplaced in my memory that is sometimes that of a goldfish. So we'll
Mhm.
see. We'll see how we feel
Mhm.
next week. But
No,
it's so
I'm gonna have
cool.
trouble. But it's okay. That's what the internet's
Yeah,
for, you know? You're like, give me the
exactly.
2-paragraph summary of the previous episode. Thank you. Now I'm ready to watch
Yep.
this.
But we
Yeah,
love the creativity. It's
we
so
do.
cool.
We do. All right, TV and Us Awards. So the first category is for most human. What is your choice for this one?
Okay, I want to give it to Smee for comforting slightly after he feels uncomfortable after that conversation where it's revealed that they're recording everything they see. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved that moment. Like, I feel like we don't see a lot of like comfort shown between male characters on
Yeah.
screen. And I feel like kids, especially, are so good at this. Like, if they see that their friend is hurt or upset, they just go over and give them a hug.
Yeah.
And we as adults kind of struggle to do that. So I loved that little moment of him walking to the other side of the room and just sitting next to him on the couch and comforting him. It was just, oh, it
I
was so
love
sweet.
that. Yeah. So earnest. So earnest.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great moment. My choice for most human character is Moro's daughter for hating raisins. It's
Fair.
so human to have these fixations where you're like, nope, I can't do that one. And she hated raisins. Understandable. I get it.
We all have things
Such a
that we
random
hate.
detail. And
Yeah,
it's
it's so
funny
good.
because it's the like one thing that Moro also chooses to share about him.
Yeah,
I had a
that's
daughter
all we
once
get to
and
know.
she hated raisins. Cool. But those are those like that is the endearing little quirks of the people that we love that we just like
Mm-hmm.
it's intimacy. Like we know your fixations and that was really kind of a sweet little moment. So hating raisins. Down to earth moment. What is your choice for this one?
Uh, when Smee and Slightly were being silly about swearing, just that little
Yeah.
kid smile that they share, it just got me so good and is so true to life.
Yeah. Those actors are doing an amazing
Oh,
job too
they're so
selling
good.
it. I bought it. Yeah, I bought into that. My choice is like that basically the same scene, but it's when they're talking about all the like cool badass creatures that they saw, with just like a complete unawareness of like the danger. Just
Yeah.
no, did you see that one though? Like that one was sick, dude. It was so cute to see and jarring to see in the alien universe because most of the
Yeah.
time our characters are full-blown adults trying to run for their lives. And
Yes.
so just to see these two like be like, yo, that was crazy. It was really cute. So
Oh, it's so
so
good.
endearing. Yeah.
Yeah.
On a different note, haunting line of dialogue.
Yeah, I want to pick when Morrow is kind of like walking through the city, you can hear on a loudspeaker uh
Oh,
it says Prodigy is the future, Prodigy is forever, and it just kind of repeats.
that's a great choice,
It's
Sarah.
very terrifying.
That's terrifying. Oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
not
That's
great.
good.
I was like, "Oh no, I don't like this. Get
I
me
didn't
out of
notice
here."
that actually. That's interesting. Great sound mixing choice. Yeah.
Oh, so
Definitely.
good.
That's so good. Uh, my choice for most haunting line is when Kirsch walks in and Boy is just lounging in his room, and Boy says, "How are my kids?"
Ooh.
Oh, oh, no, no, do not call them your kids. I don't like that. I hate that so much. It's honestly less haunting for him to be like, "How are my specimens? How are
Yeah.
my projects?
Yeah.
How are my like?"
Or even
mm,
like, how are the Lost Boys? Like, that would be less creepy.
Anything. Yes.
Anything would be less
How are
creepy.
the synthetics? Like my
Yeah.
kids. Oh yeah, weird. But
The
they're good.
other the other like creepy boy line is when he's having that conversation with Curly and he's like giving her the homework, the way that he says play, ugh, it sent
Oh yeah.
shivers down my spine. I
Yeah.
was like, this is not okay. This is not a safe person. I know you're a synthetic, but we need to get you out of here and away from him. Whatever he has planned is bad.
It's like the look in his eye too
Yeah.
that's just like a little bit twisted. And I think that's what's really cool about, I mean, creepy, but very cool about
Yeah.
the character and the roles of how they were all of the relationships together. It's like his name is Boy, but he somehow
Yeah.
created these things, and he views himself as the father of them because they're his kids. But then there's this weird, like twisted, like male gaze as stuff that's happening. Even
Mhm.
in the previous episodes, the ways he looks at Wendy, I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, I don't like that. I
Mhm.
don't like that. Get that sparkle out of your eye.
Yeah.
Get it out. So, setting up for some weird stuff to come.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But
looking ahead,
yeah.
what weird stuff are you excited to see or not see?
Yeah, we talked about Morrow as an agent of chaos and just seeing kind of where his desires take him. I'm so
Yeah.
curious to learn more about him. I want to learn more about Kirsch and his backstory and kind of like what drives him, and also how did you end up at Prodigy? If anyway,
Yeah.
I need to know more about who he is as a person. I'm very fixated on him for some reason. And then I'm just excited to continue to learn more about the Lost Boys and
Mm,
seeing more of their personality, seeing more of these conflicts between them. I'm so excited to spend more time with that group, especially because I think they're really interesting and really colorful.
yeah. And I love that there's the right number of them too. You know, like there's enough
Yes.
of them to have the spectrum of different reactions and possibilities, but not too many that you're like, hold on, which one are you again? You know, so that has been well done in the pacing of revealing more about each of them and keeping them straight in our minds. I think they did a great job on that too. Um, yeah, I'm most excited to see more about the Lost Boys and how they will all make choices. They're all teed up to make some really interesting choices. Would love to see Morrow break free and let his consciousness run wild. And I just feel like there's a lot of drama that's set up now. So I'm excited to see more of that happen. I don't know how much of this like corporation conniving stuff that we're going to get, not like kind of like where we are in the season and how much runway we have. But if they have some cool stuff there, I would love to see it. But I'm kind of not holding out for that anymore. I think based on just a few short scenes that we've seen with Utani, it seems to be more about these characters, this crew, and the corporations are kind of there as sides that are competing, but it's kind of focused a little bit more at the ground level. So um, that's fine. It's doing some good stuff now. I just hope they have some meaning and purpose to this whole like Joe Wendy situation. I don't know what to make of it so far, so jury's still out on that one. But not interested. I hope they make it interesting. Yeah, cool. All right, well, we're excited to see what happens next. Sounds like we're gearing up for some juicy, juicy drama. This is a review and discussion of episode 3 of Alien Earth. You can find this available to stream on Hulu. Thank you for listening to today's episode of TV and Us. Our name sums it up. We're big fans of TV and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories. Everyone is welcome here. We're so glad you spent time with us as we continued our journey through Alien Earth. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know your thoughts about this 3rd episode. Which character are you most intrigued to see make some choices? You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at tvnspod or email us at tvnspod@gmail.com. Check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on TV and Us and our other podcast, Movies and Us. As we mentioned, we'll be back. We're ready for episode 4, and we hope you have an amazing week. See you again very soon.